What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new tutorial. Today we are going to build a capacitor file explorer. Yes, we've done this with Cordova in the past, but the approach with capacitor is different and works actually a lot better. We can see everything will live reload on our device, and we can completely develop this application within our browser, since the capacitor implementation of the file system also uses the IndexedDB on the browser, so we can basically test everything inside the browser with real file handling, copy, delete actions, and all of that. If you want to grab the code, just check out the first or second or third, I don't know, link below the video. And of course, if you want to learn more Ionic, go check out my ionicacademy.com, the place to learn everything Ionic, courses, community, templates, everything that you need to get better with Ionic. But for today, let's dive into our file explorer with Capacitor. Alright, let's start today's application as usually with a blank new Ionic application, Angular and Capacitor enabled. Now, we need to install a few things to handle the file system stuff correctly. First of all, we need the Capacitor file system plugin, which is own package since Capacitor 3. If you want to write files to the storage or to the file system, there is a tiny issue that you actually can't write blob files. So you usually have to convert them to base64 strings and then write them using the Capacitor file system write. And this package, which is a Capacitor community plugin, makes those writes with blobs more efficient. If you anyway just have base64 strings, then you don't need this, but if you happen to work with blobs, then you should definitely install this, and we will use it in this tutorial. Also, I wanted to use something to open the files, which is Cordova plugin preview any file, which basically opens a preview for really any kind of file. And since I also wanted to use the Ionic native wrapper, I also had to install the Ionic native core package. So we got another 3 packages. In the end, you can just add the platforms, iOS, Android, whatever you want. And we can do 2 more setup things. First, we're using an Ionic native plugin. So the usual way, this is kind of like a year ago, 2 years ago. Add it to your app module and add it to the array of providers. I don't know how long I haven't done something like this, really. Then also for the app routing file, you can change this because we will reuse our home page. So it's the default first page, of course, but it's also available through home/folder. That will help to access different folders, and we can just navigate within our one page. Will make life really a lot easier. Now, on top of that, for our blob writer plugin, we need to change something within our Android project. So navigate to Android, source, main, and then we need the Android manifest. And before we dive into the manifest, we also need to create a file in the XML folder, and this file should be called networksecurityconfig.xml. This is the config. Actually, this was from me. This part is required for the blob writer, since the blob writer uses a local server, and you can read about it on the GitHub repository. And if you create a configuration like this and want to use live reload on a device, you should also include your own IP from your local network. Now, once you've created that file, you can reference it inside the manifest in the application component. No, what's it called? I don't know. Under Android Network Security Config, and for the Capacitor file system, we also need this request latency external storage to true. So I've added those 2. I think I haven't added any other permissions. Android will ask for this anyway. So that's basically everything that we need for the setup. Now onto the home page. I already added the functions. I haven't added anything in them, so we will have life a bit easier. Let's quickly see what I already added. You can also import this while you go. This is our package, Capacitor blob writer. This is the Ionic native plugin, which goes to our constructor. In terms of the variables, the folder content will basically show the current content. So if we're on the home page, it will show the top level. Once we dive into another folder, it will have the content of that folder. Current folder will always display the path in which we currently are, so we can easily later remove or delete files using this relative path. Copy file will be used once we get into copying, and file picker for adding files. But for now, I think we should start by getting the current folder, which we can from our route, and then we can call load documents, because that's basically the start of it all. In the end of or in the beginning of our page, we want to first of all load all documents, and we can do this. So let's do this. Folder content equals, and then first time using the Capacitor file system read directory. All of these require some options. Usually those options are directory and path. So those two. For the directory, I set something up here, a const. I just called this app directory. I couldn't find any better name. Usually you would pass in to all those calls that we used the directory, like documents or data or cache, and I just wanted to fix this up here so I can change it in one place. We will really have this string in about, let's say, maybe even 10 places or more. So if you want to use a different directory, you can now easily change it up here and then just use app directory in the right places. For the path, we can now use the current folder. In the beginning, this will just be blank, so no problem to read that directory. Let's also put a little lock in here with our folder content. And what we will see is I actually already added some files for testing. Now, what we see in here is a little problem. The only thing we get back from the file system here is just a string. That's not too much of information, and I will do a little dirty hack to check if something is a file or not. And for this, I will go through all the files that we get back from the plugin, so folder content.files. And for every file, I will instead return an object with a name, which is the file, and a flag to indicate if it's a file or not by checking if it includes a dot. Well, this is like a really ugly hack. Perhaps you could do something else like calling the stat function. Let's give this a try. Can we do this? Async, and then foo equals await file system stat. Okay, and then we need most likely the directory, which is our app directory, and the path is actually the path should be something like this plus the name of the file. I actually haven't tried the stat, but let's see what the result looks like. This could also be handy in other places. I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, gives us the URI, the type, size. Still, it's okay. This is type directory, so maybe we could do this. I'm sure you can do this. Just check if the type is directory from the stat function, and then you got your better way of handling this. Maybe, well, I could just do this as well, right? Type. Not equal directory. Now everything's messed up, really. You wanted this, why did you want this in the first place? You started this war. Now we got it. Directory, this dot folder content, and hopefully it now looks still correct. Now we don't even, now I got a lot of promises in here. That's not what I wanted. So I will take back everything that I said. You have to find a way to fix this. It will definitely work with the stat plugin. Maybe just handle the promise a bit better than I did in this really bad try. Now, we also want to create folders. And to create folders, I added a little snippet which brings up an alert. Really, I don't want to type all of this. I want to put focus on the file system stuff. And once we click create in our alert, we get access to the input field, which has the name. So we can call file system make directory. Once again, directory, our app directory that we specified, and the path is our current folder /data.name. And there's really nothing else we need to do to create that directory. And with that in place, we can start to head over to our home page. We can add a little info if we don't have anything in it yet. And otherwise, we can open a new Ion list, and we want to add Ion item sliding so we can later also add these options buttons to the side. We will go through all the files of folder content, and for everyone or for each file we're going to create an Ion item, and besides the item we will have the option buttons later. Let's for now just display the name, and we could maybe also display an icon. So if the file is a file, we're going to display a document, and otherwise we're going to display a folder. Quick and easy fix. To finally add something to our application, we're going to add a little fab, which has a default fab button and then a list that will come up to the top once you click on the fab button. That's a default behavior from, or a default component from Ionic. We can then either create a folder or add a file. Add file isn't yet implemented, so we're gonna stick with this. And I somehow messed up. Where did I mess up this? Folder content f.name. I actually feel quite confident about my solution. I don't know what's wrong. We really started this. So I blame Visual Studio Code. That's always a bad idea. It will get back to you. So let's try it one more time. My folder is full of of async. We shouldn't really have started this. Okay, these are the files I created in the beginning. We will get rid of them at some point, maybe not. Here's our fab, and we should be able to create a new video folder. And then we got the folder. Since after this function, I also directly call load documents again, which will simply reload all the content. So there we go. We're able to create folders. That's, I think, a good start. But of course, we want to do more. Let's now handle the file upload, or the file. No, it's not really a file upload. It's just adding files. I wanted to do a little trick with this one, because I just didn't want to use the camera plugin once again, and it always messes up my video recording. So instead I went with a hidden input that we will call from this view child. On change it will call a function, but for now we need to trigger this function, and we can just do this. We're already accessing it, our uploader. Well, we shouldn't call this uploader, it's just the picker. The file picker, and we need to do this when the user clicks on add file. That's really the easiest function we got. It will just click on this hidden element. Let's give it a try, and we see this comes up. That looks good. Okay, now on select, this function for file selected will be called. You can look out the whole event. It looks rather interesting because it contains really a lot of information. There's only one part of that information that is actually interesting. So if I select what's going on, I want to start with desktop all the time. Let's pick this one. This is the event, and you will find the data inside target files at the position 0. We will just handle this for single files. There are also other components for handling multiple files, but let's just stick with this. So that means we can get the selected element from target files at the position 0, and then we will start to use the write blob plugin. Once again, I added the import up here from Capacitor blob writer. Most likely in the future, this will also be part of the Capacitor community, so probably the import is different at that point. Now, it kind of looks the same like our Capacitor plugins. We got the directory, we got a path. Why don't I get any kind of code compilation in here? I don't know. We got some kind of path, then we got the blob, which is actually our selected file. And then we could also add an on fallback. Now we'll just leave it out. We're not gonna make any problems today. Let's please work. Okay, and afterwards I'll just reload my documents. So the path is now our current folder, which is still just a blank string as we haven't navigated anywhere. And then from the selected file, the name, we've seen this here, name Twitter Simon. Maybe you want to rename this somehow to prevent any conflicts. Maybe not, up to you. Okay, let's give it a try. Yeah, of course, I already got Twitter Simon in here. Okay, can we just, for testing, remove this? Application, index db disk file storage. Yeah, I got a bunch of files in here. Let's just get rid of everything. Can we just clear it? That's good. And now our application should be blank. Okay, I'm gonna add my cool file once again. And there is our file. Great, is file recognized true? I can hopefully still add folders. Yes. So we can now also see this on a device. I should have my application running somewhere with live reload. Let's check it out. Of course, it's not open yet, but I will show you how it looks in a second. Meanwhile, we are actually finished with this, so we should next head over to navigation. But first, let's see this in action. Now, if we had used the default Capacitor camera plugin, we would of course have a nice interface. Right now, we have the interface also at a strange position because the event came from there. But we could still now browse our files. So I could use the practical Ionic PDF, or I could also take a photo or... Oh, I did something wrong. I actually don't know why it crashed. I have used an image before. Maybe it's not working that well with my broadcasting. I really don't know. Okay, photo library. That works. And then we got an image in there as well. Just as a reference, we've just written this code for basically the web, and it works on the web, but it also works on iOS and Android at the same time, which is always fascinating to me. Next step in our journey, where are we? 60 minutes. Oh, that's gonna be a short one today. When we click on an item in our list, we're gonna do a few things. If we have some kind of copy action going on, which we'll reveal with the side buttons, so we can maybe add them so I can more easily show you what I mean. So within the Ion item slidings, we got a options button for start, which will delete a file, and for the end, which will start the copy operation. Now, starting the copy operation will basically just change our header bar color. That's really all. When we press copy, we will change the color in here, and then we will be able to select like our other folder. That means we need to check inside the click function if we currently have a copy operation going on, and in that case, we will do something else. So if this .copy file, yeah, not the current folder, but exactly the copy file is currently set, which is null in the beginning, to do copy stuff. Otherwise, we can check if the entry is actually a file. We need to postpone this a tiny bit to do, because in that case we want to open the file. The navigation really just happens if it's we are not copying, and if we are not copying, and if we found a directory. So the path to open in that case is not that easy, because you need to make sure that the current folder, if it's currently empty, you don't want to have like an URL with 2 slashes in there. So that's just what this line does. If the current folder is already set, so unequal to an empty string, we're gonna set the current folder /entry.name, which is the one we clicked on, so we can navigate into something. Maybe I'm gonna put a lock in here. So open this one. And then just to make sure, we're gonna encode the URI components because we next need to use the router to navigate to home/folder, which could actually be a long path, but that's not a problem for us. Inside the ng-init on that page that will be called, we will get the value right here. So we're gonna add a log here as well, load for, and we're gonna add this one as well. So now we should be able to navigate into the test folder. Do we actually add a click event? I don't think so. So let's go back, and for the Ion item, not the sliding, make sure you put it onto the Ion item, you add the item clicked function. And now we should be able to dive into that folder. So open test, load for test, and we see this. Let's add a few more levels of more level. So we have a new folder in here, and then we're at a new level, and let's add one more, and there we go. Now we also want to make this look a bit better with our navigation. So let's go up here and display either the current folder name or the Devtactic Explorer. And also we're going to change the Ion toolbar color based on if the copy file is set or not. And one final thing, if we are actually inside a folder, which means current folder is not an empty string, we will also show a little back button at the top. So if current folder is not an empty string, we're gonna show a back button. Let's go back to our initial page in here, and then we can check out. We can go to test, we got the back button, and we can dive into our other levels, and we can see the actual path up here. So this is now, right now, the current folder value, which is quite important for copying, deleting. So current folder now always has this path, test level one more. So basically the current relative path. I'm gonna leave it like this with the logs, might be helpful in the future. So now we can open a file preview. This is the place where we want to open our file preview. So let's use this already, this dot open file with our entry. There we go. And with an open file, we actually need to do two things. Okay, if is platform hybrid. The reason is we've installed the Cordova plugin to use the preview anywhere, but that will only work on a device. Inside the web browser, we don't have any implementation for that, so we need a little fallback. I'm not super happy about the fallback. It doesn't work that great. Maybe you also don't need a fallback, so I will just quickly show you what we could do. So for the browser, we could read the file, which would return the base 64 data. File, let's add the file. Okay, let's see. We can click on our image, and that should show the base 64 data. Now we can convert that data to a blob using this function that I found somewhere online while looking for a solution. Okay, I will just replace it completely. You can find it in the article linked below the video. You really don't need to type all of this. It won't get you any further. The problem is for some files the A to B function failed, and I'm not sure if the base 64 that we stored was wrong. So maybe the blob writer did something wrong. That might need some more investigation. So especially for PDF files, this failed. But once you get this blob, it's always quite easy. There's a standard snippet. So if you got a blob, you can create an object URL from it. Then you can create a hidden element, and you can call a click function on it, and in the end, remove it again. That's the whole magic of downloading something in the browser from here. So for a Twitter assignment, it should actually work. It will download that image and open it. So that completely worked fine. But for PDF, I had problems that the A to B failed on the base 64 string, and I'm not 100% sure why that was the case. Now, the other case might actually be more interesting for hybrid platforms. In that case, I would recommend to first of all get the file URI of our element. So I will put a log in here as well. file URI, and once you get that file URI, you can just call the plugin preview. So this dot preview any file preview with a file URI. This will try to somehow open the file. For iOS, that actually works pretty good. For Android, it also works good, but it will look for any installed applications, and if there are none, I think it might fail. So let's see this for my app here. Once again, did I actually save? No. Now did I save? I will also maybe use the inspect tool. I recently got this for iOS debugging. Works actually pretty good. Let's see, no devices found. Okay, yeah. Well, let's not talk about it. I don't know why it's not working, but here we see this is the file previewer plugin in action. It works nice. It actually shows my PDF. It shows images. It shows everything that we got in here. Can we already copy? No, we can't, but I also already got something in here. So it also works in subfolders with the right path. Since we're using our current folder plus the entry name to get the file URI to something. Can we maybe see this in here, the log? Let's once again give it a try. No, we don't see any log today in here. That's fine, we can live with that. We could do some Safari remote debugging if we want to, but my device doesn't seem to be connected for whatever reason. Anyway, you can check the URI out, and we got that covered as well. The last missing piece of the day is what's missing? The delete function and the copy function. So we will leave copy for the end because, well, we will just leave it for the end. And delete is pretty easy. We can once again simply check if our entry is a file or a directory. That makes a tiny little difference, because if it's a file, we can just call the Capacitor plugin delete file. Once again, our directory and the relative path to our file. If it is instead a directory, we're gonna have to call remove dir or directory. I don't know how you spell this. rmdir, something like that. This path is basically the same. If you want to remove all the files in that folder, which makes sense, if you disconnect the folder, you don't really want to have the files left. Also call recursive true. Remove the contents of the directory. Maybe it even fails if you don't say this. Otherwise, you can just load the documents. So for deleting, let's give this a try. There we go. And goodbye little file. And goodbye little folder. Okay, that was quite easy. Let's also implement the copy function, which actually starts super easy. When you start copy, let's just save a reference to the copy file. That basically enables the copy mode. So you can press copy here, but I should maybe add some more files, like an image that we haven't used before. Maybe another image. Let's use this one, and let's maybe create another folder. Okay, now we can test things. In the beginning, if we start the copy, you see we set the copy file, the header changes, and then we can select another folder and basically end the copy dialog. We need to handle this within our item clicked function, because that is called once we click on something, and that's where we left this little to do. So we need to add a little break in here, and if the entry is actually a file, we don't want to do anything. So you can't copy from file to file, that's not going to work. As a second click action, you have to select a folder. And then once this is done, you can call the finish copy file function. Let's check out our thing, copy to another file. That's not going to work. So we need to implement the copy inside the finish copy file. Now, this was actually the only place where I had to add a little manipulation for the current path. Or did we use this somewhere else? I don't know, but for the copy, that was really picky function. It didn't want to have something like 2 slashes in the path, and then it complained and completely failed. And also, For the web and for iOS, this kind of worked nicely with just using our current folder / the name of the entry and doing this thing. For Android, that completely didn't work. So I switched over to a different solution by getting two URIs to the actual files. So the from URI uses our current folder plus the name from the copy file that you initially slided and clicked on copy. And the destination URI uses current / entry name, that's the one you clicked on second, plus the name from the copy file because you wanted to copy it to this folder. And once you got those two in place, it's actually quite easy again. In that case, you could just go ahead with filesystem.copy. There is no move function, or I actually didn't find any move function, but well, a move function is basically a copy with a delete afterwards. So I'm quite sure that you can handle that. For the from, we're gonna use from URI.URI to no destination, something like this .URI, and that will copy our file. There are two more parameters, I think from directory or something, or just directory, and also to directory. I don't know why we should use them because from and to work already quite good. Well, it worked without them. If you get any problems, perhaps give them a try. But if you use directory in here, you need to make sure that you don't use an app directory here. Which is the basic directory where your files inside the application are stored. Now, after the copy dialog, we're gonna set the copy file back to null, and we're gonna call this .load documents. Maybe I could also add a delete action afterwards. Why not? Why not? Let's make this a move. Let's call this .delete on the copy file. I already regret my decision. But anyway, let's try. Copy to the test folder. Okay, file is gone and file is here, and we can move it along to the next folder. Yes, there we go. That's pretty cool. So really, a move is just a copy with a delete afterwards. If you don't want to move the file, or you could add a flag. In a previous tutorial I had move and copy here. Now I just went for copy or just for move. Really not a big deal. Let's see, we got an empty folder. Can we also copy that folder to test? Yes, we can. And now the final question, can we copy this folder with all the files and contents to the final folder? I'm really excited. Copy, final folder, you're gone, and everything is in here, and it still works. We can still download everything. We can still navigate around. We can delete all the files and subfolders, and if you want to debug it, just check the file storage in here. If you want to debug your connected devices for iOS, check out the Safari remote debugging. For Android, you can do it from Chrome or Android Studio. But otherwise, that should cover all the functionalities of the Capacitor file system, plus the blob writer plugin, thanks for the author, and also the Open Anywhere plugin, Cordova plugin, which is also pretty great to get a preview of every file in our Explorer. Alright, and that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I feel like the Capacitor file system implementation works really great across all platforms, web, iOS, Android, everything. Well, that's the promise of Capacitor, to make everything work across those platforms, but I'm still always kind of excited that it really actually works that easy. The only thing we had to use an if statement for was downloading or opening the files, which you might perhaps just need on a device because you're working on an app. In that case, you don't need that if, you don't need this ugly function to convert the base64 to a blob, or the other way around, I don't know. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, do me a favor, give it a like or share it somewhere, and of course subscribe to the channel for more Ionic videos. Have a great week and enjoy your file explorer, and happy coding, Simon.